Hi folks, welcome along to Building My Virtual Race Car episode 8. Now it's almost a whole year since the last episode came out because obviously we've been busy using the rig rather than building it anymore. It's pretty much there. But yeah, just towards the end of 2022 there, we got a bit of an upgrade to the rig in the steering wheel department, and those of you who've been following our live streams will know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's that little bag over my shoulder there, the Cube Controls CSX 3. So yeah, in this video I wanted to take it out of the box, show you what it's like, take it out the bag, sorry, show you what it's like, and then maybe take you through what it's like to drive as well. The big part of this steering wheel is obviously, a big selling point is obviously the big screen in front of it, which is fully compatible with Simhub, so it allows you to program basically anything you like onto the screen, which is amazing. And obviously the car I've been using it in has been the Mercedes F1, the W13 in iRacing, and yeah, the screen I put together and coded for that is pretty cool. So I'll take you through all that as well. So yeah, let's get started. So here it is then in all its glory. The wheel outside of the bag. Now I'll put some images up on the screen in a little bit so you can see it in more detail, because the camera's not the best, but for give you kind of clarity and things, but it does give you a good feel for how it looks, in real life. So first impressions out of the box, obviously I was kind of blown away by it. It's absolutely does look like something that's come out of a proper race car. It's, yeah, the build quality is fantastic. All the buttons the same as my my old the GT wheel that I have from Cube Controls. It's kind of the same buttons, so they've all got a nice positive click to them. There's rotary encoders and switches as well, nice positive clicks and indents. The thumb encoders, yeah, positive. A little bit of a, I would rather they were a little bit bigger, a little bit harder, because they are a little bit harder to turn. Bit more resistance maybe, or just bigger indents. I don't know. They're fine if you're using it with your thumbs like this, but obviously I race with gauntlet gloves on, which makes them a little bit finer than I would like. But once you get used to them, there's no issue whatsoever. But yeah, cracking bit of kit on the front. On the back side as well, we've got it attached to with all my wheels, the quick release from Cube Controls, which for whatever reason works exceptionally well on this wheel. The bind between the female part and the male part on the rig is really good. So you've got your main gear shifters, which are nice magnetic shifters. All 6 are magnetic, I should say. But yeah, fully adjustable as well, with the length of throw on them here, or the length of engagement, sorry, and you've got you can adjust the throw in the back here and the angle of them. I don't actually, can you adjust the throw? No, you can't adjust the throw of the gear shifter, sorry, just the angle of them. The 2 clutch paddles at the bottom here, you can adjust the throw on these. As you can see, maybe you can see from that shot here, we've got this one sitting slightly, it's quite short, because that's the one I release quickly. That's the initial clutch, and then this side, oops, we have a longer throw, because that's the clutch that we control the actual release of the clutch on. Top 2 paddles here, I use one of these to change the display and one of them to activate DRS. Little observation is that these 2 at the top, I think it's like some kind of carbon fibre reinforced plastic or something, the little modules here, so they do feel slightly softer to press. There's a wee bit of sponginess there compared to the metal or aluminium, the other 4. But it's not a big issue. I mean, I don't use these paddles a lot, it's just for a quick flack of the DRS or to change the display, so it's not something that's a problem. It's just really nice if they were metal as well, or yeah, it's aluminium as well. But yeah, other than that, absolutely blown away with the wheel, fantastic. And we'll stick a couple of shots up on the screen so you can see it in more detail. Now, the next thing to do, I would say, would be to show you it in operation. So the best thing to do for that is to put it onto the rig, get it mounted, jump into a car, and we will give you a tour of it in action. So here we are in the cockpit of the W13 F1 car in iRacing, Mercedes AMG Petronas Formula 1 team, as it says here. Now obviously we'll take you through the buttons first, and then we'll go into the dash in more detail later on. So what we've got here, as I say, we've got DRS at the top here, we've got the screen, we've got plus and minus paddles for gear change, the 2 clutches at the bottom, quick release, and then the feed in. So I should say quick release, and then the kind of gradual feed into that clutch. I've tried to map the buttons out as close as possible to the actual Mercedes wheel and colour coded them as much as I could as well to kind of give a semblance of kind of reality to it. So starting at the bottom, working down, the neutral button, obviously in Mercedes, but we don't have a neutral button in the game, but I use that for the starter button of the car. This I use for the ignition switch. It's just a toggle switch on and off. There's a toggle switch here that we don't use. The pit limiter, very important, obviously part of the car in there. This, I don't use the B for anything. The F, again, using that as a flash button in like GT cars, but here I use it for the visor tear off. We have two rotary encoders, so one thumb switch here, marked entry. That changes the diff on entry. We've got changing the diff on exit here. Brake bias, large adjustment here. This is changing the diff on mid in this thumb rotary here. We have the engine map settings here. The brake by, what's that? That's the I've forgotten. That's something to do with the engine braking. We'll see it when we start up the car. Sorry, engine braking is the bottom one. This is the brake migration, I think that one is, which is something that F1 cars do that's quite cool. Buttons here for brake magic on and off. You heard Lewis Hamilton talking about brake magic on and off. The W13 in iRacing doesn't have that. The W12 did, the previous one. These two funky switches here, so the funky switches, they rotate, they can push up, down, left, right, and they can push in as well. Use that to control the black box, which you'll see across here in iRacing, so I can change what's displayed in my little black box. Again, that's more something for me rather than anything in the actual car. The other buttons in the Mercedes aren't used anyway. So let's fire up the car. So as you can see here, we've got the ignition off. There's nothing happening. The display is telling us that there's no comms because the car's not on. Again, this is kind of, as far as I can tell from onboard, it's true to life. So when we switch the ignition on, we get comms OK, waiting for data, and the rev lights at the top light up. We get our first display up, and then once we press the ignition button, the engine starts, and now we've lost the flashing lights at the top there to tell us. So the rev lights at the top, I should say as well. You'll see 3 green lights at the left hand side here, which are DRS indicators. One indicates that DRS is available, and the 2 lit, all 3 of them light up when DRS is activated. The rest of the lights, there's a red rev strip, and then the blue 3 lights at the end will flash when we just change gear. Interesting point is that the amount of the revs at which these lights activates are different in every gear for the car, so it took a bit of fine tuning in the software to actually get those lights to come on at the right time. Anyway, so display here, this is our kind of main display page. I'll turn the ignition off on, actually I need to keep it on, don't I, so I can see the display page. But what you'll see here is that in the mid-center we've got the gear, below that is the current deployment mode of the battery, so this is the button that changes it. So we're currently on balance for the race. We can move it to attack 3, which is another race mode for attacking, using a lot of battery very quickly to attack or defend. We've got number 2, which is qualifying, which again you use for deploying all the energy over a qualifying lap. 1 is no deploy, so you'd use that in qualifying for building the battery in a lap. It won't deploy energy, it'll just save energy. So that earlier. Again, all these displays, how it displays it here, how it comes up and flashes on the screen, are all things that I've taken off of onboard cameras from real F1, so it's given me the same experience that the real F1 drivers get. We've got balance, as I say, which is our normal race mode, and then we've got build, which is again a race mode that tries to build energy over a lap. Again, you will lose lap time doing that, but it's better than using the no deploy setting. This will deploy some energy, but it'll try and build the battery up. We'll leave it on balance for the moment. What else displays here? In the top left hand corner we've got the delta to the previous lap time, and the best lap time, and then the previous lap time is down here in the bottom right in light blue. Interestingly, again, I picked this up from some of the onboards that I watched, that they don't show the 1 minute at the start of the lap time. Again, not much point, because in real life it's always 1 minute something, or there's never a 2 minute lap in F1, so they're not really, it's superfluous data to have the 1 minute there. So we just show the seconds and the to the tenths of a second there, and the delta will be the same up there. The 2 numbers in the middle here, sorry, the one at the top to start with is brake bias. So that's our live brake bias from the car, which, if I engage the clutches and stick it in first gear and move a little bit, you'll see that goes down to 51.5, and when I brake, it actually stays there, that's fine. So 51.5 is the brake bias in the car. that's what it's set at. Formula 1 cars have this dynamic brake bias where you can set that above a certain pedal pressure, the brake bias will move forward dynamically and then move back again as you come off the pedal. Reason for that is with all the downforce and the grip that the cars have. Obviously at high downforce, end of a big long straight when you're going on the brakes hard, you've got so much grip that you can afford the brake bias to move forward a little bit to give you that extra stopping power, if you like. But as you come off the brake and as your downforce creeps away, the car wants to understeer with that brake bias, meaning it wants to push on. So you really want the brake bias to be more rearward there. But again, if you braked with the brake bias that far rearward with all the downforce in the car, you would simply spin up the back end with lock. So that allows you to get the best of both worlds, if you like, and you can tune that in the car to the amount of forward migration the brake has, and that's some of the migration settings here. This is my brake migration 4, 5. Again, I can take this up to a total of 10 settings on the brake migration, and that's how much the brake is going to move forward when I press the pedal to a certain amount, which is set in the car setting menu. So this orange number here shows you the live brake bias. So that is how you'll see that in the braking zones. You'll see it migrating forward and going back again as I come off the brake. The middle two numbers are to do with fuel usage. Now, the bottom number in red is the target fuel usage for the lap. So the amount of fuel in kilograms, sorry, that I need to use every lap in order to make it to the end of the race, based on the fuel I started the race with. The number above that in green is the last lap relative to the target. So if it's negative, it's good, it's green, that means I've used less fuel than my target amount. If it's positive, it'll show red, and it'll be that I've used more fuel than what I need to use to get to the end. So you want to keep that green, obviously, because if it goes red, then you're going to overshoot your fuel usage. The fuel usage again is displayed that there's a bar here. I don't know if you can see that at the right hand side. There's 20 boxes or 21 boxes, I think it is. These fill up with colour depending on where you are relative to your baseline fuel amount. So if you're using less fuel than required, every box is, I think, 100 grams of fuel. I think I'm right in saying that. So if I'm 100 grams safe, I'll get one green box. 200 grams with 2 green boxes, blah blah blah, and it'll fill up. Obviously, if that's filling up red, it means you're using more fuel than you should be to get to the end of the race. If it fills up green, you've got more fuel in reserve that you can then maybe push later on and use that extra fuel. There's a little horizontal grey line, again I hope you can see that there, and that is the amount of fuel in the tank, so that'll move up and down. So at the moment obviously we've got about just over a third of a tank of fuel in. Start of a race for a full Grand Prix distance should be up top somewhere, and then obviously at the end of the race it's down low. That's fuel usage. The big box at the bottom left here is simply for the pit limiter display, so when I put that on, the light flashes and the pit limiter comes on, and the lights will get a green, a red and a blue to tell us the pit limiter is engaged. And the last number here is the battery, which is at 99%. That's the live charge in the battery itself. Again, you want to charge that up to 100% before a qualifying lap. In the race, the balance mode here that we've selected, the car tries to keep the battery to 80% charge at the end of a lap, so it'll use as much energy as it can, and it learns the lap and your usage as you go around and do more laps, and it tries to keep the charge to 80%. If I put it on build, it'll try and get back to 100%. If I had it in attack, that would just empty the battery as quickly as possible, regardless of where I am on the track, just try and get the battery all the way down to 0. Again, using that for overtaking somebody or a quick blast in a certain section of track or something. Your qualifying mode, that tries to maximise the battery usage over one lap, so it'll try and discharge the battery evenly so that when you get to the start finish line you're out of energy. And again, obviously no deploy, as I say, that won't use any, that won't deploy anything, that'll just build. Rules in the championship, you can only change that four times in one lap, I think, because I'm in the pits and testing just now, it's letting me do what I like. So yeah, what else do we have? Just to show you some of the functionality. So you've seen the buttons working. We've got our entry, again diff entry, that'll change that with that thumb screw. We've got the exit, which again will display the diff high speed, as it's called. See what I mean about it sometimes jumps a little bit if you're not too fine with it. With the big gloves on, the rotary switches can be a little bit too sensitive. But again, you get used to it. The mid, diff mid, again, same function. This is the big brake bias, so this is the adjustment for a brake bias. It'll move it in 0.5%, so the 51.5 at the moment, I move it forward, it goes up to 52. Again, 52.5, back down to 51.5. And then the two blue buttons here are your fine adjustment, so you can move that, it moves it 0.1 of a 0.1 of a percent. So that's for really fine adjustments to the brake bias. We've covered the map settings. You've seen the brake magic settings, or brake migration, sorry, settings. The bottom right here is for the amount of engine braking. So again, that's a setting to do with how much the engine's going to slow the car down in the braking zone, and that can tune the car performance as well. The bottom left encoder, I've used that for the front wing adjustment. Now obviously you can't adjust the front wing as you're driving, but this allows you to request a flap adjust at the front wing like it would in real life. So in real life they would come on the radio, speak to the team engineer, the race engineer, and say, can I get a 0.25 adjustment in the flap or a 0.5 adjustment in the flap, and then when they come into the pits that'll happen. So this just allows you to do that in the car, because obviously you're trying to talk to the computer and they won't understand if you if you speak into the microphone. It won't make any difference. So I think that is all the buttons covered, to be fair, in the first screen anyway. So there's a couple of more screens we have. We've got a second screen, which is our warm-up screen. Tend not to use this a lot in iRacing. The reason being that the numbers here, iRacing will not allow you to put out live tyre data. So in real life this tells you the live temperature of each tyre and then the live carcass temperature of each tyre. iRacing doesn't allow that data to go out. So what I've coded this to do is the temperature of the tyre at the last pit stop, you know, what you can get out of iRacing, and then the wear of each tyre. So obviously these are brand new tyres, so they're all 68 degrees and they were all 100% tyre wear, or 100%, sorry, being zero wear when they put them on. You've got your gear on the screen as well, your speed at the top left hand corner, you've got your pit limiter, again, which will disappear if I turn that off. Two brake bias numbers here. Your live brake bias is the big number, but you've also got your base brake bias, so that's what it's set at without me applying any brake pressure. And that'll just stay fixed, just to tell you what's at. Water temperature at the bottom here as well, and again a little display in the middle telling you what mode you're on battery wise. Your battery above that, and then a little bit at the bottom for the delta for your lap time as well. The red boxes that you've seen on both screens so far, these are the gear sync boxes. So in the first lap out the pits in a practice or a qualifying session, the car has to learn the gear sync, to learn how to change between gears. And you'll often hear drivers talking about Verstappen. I think a few times we've heard him last season talking about losing sync on the gearbox. So this is telling you that the gears are unsynced, and when you change up through the gears at revs, you'll see that when we go for a drive, that they go green, and then once they're all green, they disappear altogether. So that's a warm-up screen. Again, tend not to use that too much in iRacing because really it's not giving you the live data that it does in real life, simply with the limitations of the sim. Next screen is the clutch bite point screen. Now, this is usable in the sim, but it's not as important really as it is in real life, because the way we start the car in the sim and the way we launch the car in the sim is different from real life. In real life, they'll get to a certain rev limit and then find the ideal clutch bite point, memorize that, and then take it to go. It still works, and it still shows you what I've got displayed here is, instead of revs though, is throttle position, because the best way to start in iRacing is to get a certain throttle position, and then obviously the revs are sky high, because you know you should only have a tiny amount of throttle, but around about 40% throttle or something like that to get whatever the ideal is to start the car, and then launch and go. So this will simply tell me, I better not do it in the pits actually, because I'll end up putting it in the wall, but I'll change the screen, we'll get out and we'll explain the other two screens when we're out with the pit lane. Here at Spa, and go across to the start area. So practice start area. So if we go into the clutch screen, if I engage first gear and apply throttle, it'll tell me to wait. Now I can go whatever throttle percentage I like here and just practice the start, and it'll tell me exactly where I am. So say we went to practice 30%, we'll try about there, let go, and we'll do a little launch. And that was a little bit low, but there we go. Other thing I should say is that if I disengage the clutches, we get an anti-stall reading. iRacing automatically applies the anti-stall for us, so we don't need to worry about pressing anything, but it's a bit more realistic if we actually see the anti-stall come up, so I programmed that in as well. So yeah, race start screen, the final one is for the race start. So again, in F1 in real life they have an RPM, an ideal RPM to start the race with. We don't, we have a throttle percentage, so I've added this box up here which they don't have in real life, and again that shows you where the throttle is. And then the box around here, you'll see it changing colour. If the throttle's too low or perfect or high, it'll change colour. It'll say RPM, I just wanted to keep that so that the car looked like it did in real life, but it was obviously the throttle position we're aiming for. And that's how we start the race. So if we pull the clutches in and select first gear, and you'll see my throttle percentage increasing. There's low. That's good, that's high, good, and then too high it goes yellow. So we're round about the 40% mark. Let the clutch out. Let the second clutch out, and we're off. See how the gears are going green as we drive. And then they disappear once they're all synced. So the green DRS light's on, so press that, that's DRS open. You'll see the brake bias change here. When I go in the brakes, up into Telecom. You see the rev light, sorry, showing me exactly when to change gear again. A bit of tuning required there to get it to tie up with the sim. But it works very well. Tyres are very cool after all that time sitting in the pit lane. Again, we change the brake bias, we get an live readout of what's happening there. I can change brake magic, and I can change lots of things in the wheel, and it's given us a live readout just as it does in the real F1 car, which again I'm very happy with. Got our DRS zone coming out right here. And that green light's just reminding us to get the DRS on. Take the drivers back for the first corner. Down to second gear. And there we go. Let's do a lap so you can see the delta time come up. We have a lap end screen. I don't know if you noticed it when I came across the line there. There's a special screen that comes up at the end of the lap showing you what your last lap time was and also what the fuel delta was. So in a practice session like this, it'll tell you what my actual fuel usage was. In a race situation, it would tell you if you're above or below the delta. Oh, the corners come at you so quickly in this car. It really is fantastic to drive. Watch the brake bias here. And there's a lap end screen. So it was a 47.3. Deep there because I was looking at the lap end screen, but there you go. And now you can see the delta is obviously going positive because I marked up the first corner. But yeah, that's the dash, and that's how it works. And that is how should be changing the brake bias to rouge. Yeah, that's how it looks in the Mercedes AMG W13. So yeah, very happy with the dash, very happy with the wheel as a whole. And once the trouble is, it's so addictive that once you start doing laps, you don't want to stop. But I better stop. So we'll just pull in here, and we'll get some final thoughts on the wheel. Oh, there's the anti-stall, of course. Boom. Wait for them to come and recover me. So I hope you enjoyed that, folks. Hope it was maybe useful. Again, a little bit for myself. It's been useful experience writing the code for the wheel and figuring out how it works to actually learn what the real drivers, Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, have to look at on their steering wheel and how they interpret it. And again, when you're watching F1, especially the night races, because the screens really light up in the night races, you can see them on the camera. Yeah, it's been useful to look at the dash and be able to see all the numbers and know what they mean. So yeah, hopefully that's will be useful for you as well. But some final thoughts on the Cube Controls CSX3. As I say, absolutely over the moon with this bit of kit. It's fantastic. I've had no issues. I've been using it now for a couple of months probably. In various lots of testing, in various races, a couple of races, a couple of live streams as well. You can tune into those to see it in action. And yeah, I've had absolutely zero issues with it whatsoever. It's worked as expected. As I say, the fact that the screen integrates so well with Simhub is fantastic. Simhub picks up the wheel straight away. I had to download a driver from the Cube Controls website, but once I did that, it picked it up out the box straight away, recognised all the functionality, and again, you can download obviously pre-made dashes for it as well if you just want to use the wheel and get running, which I did to start with. And yeah, everything worked perfectly. All the buttons, all the calibration, the Cube Controls software as well for calibrating the buttons and the throw of the clutches, and you can decide if you want your clutch bite to be the left one or the right one, and yeah, all that works flawlessly. Adjusting the bite point as well in the software. As I say, the only kind of small niggly gripes that I have are I'd quite like these thumb adjusters. The ones here are actually okay, but the ones that you right up at your thumb here, I think they're the same adjuster, so it's strange that they feel different. But maybe just because they're recessed slightly in the wheel, it's with gloves on. They could be a little bit bigger. I mean, if you look at actual F1 wheels, the dials are a little bit bigger with larger kind of indents, if you like, for you to adjust with gloves on. But again, I don't really blame Cube Controls for that, because they're ultimately making a sim product, and a lot of people drive with bare hands. So if you were doing that, then these big chunky buttons wouldn't be very comfortable at all. So I don't blame them for that. And again, once I get used to it, it was fine. Again, it would have been nice for these two additional paddles at the back to be in aluminium rather than the slightly softer material, but again, you're not using them a lot, so I can't really fault them in that either. Something that it's worth mentioning is that when I first saw the wheel, because I had my eyes on the CSX2, which was their previous generation wheel, and the screen on that was slightly bigger. It took more of a central focus point on the wheel. And when I first saw this, my initial reaction was, oh, the screen's a little bit smaller, why have they done that? Obviously there's technical reasons for it, but I have to say, having now used it for a couple of months, I have absolutely zero issues with the size of the screen. It is perfect, it's clear, it's bright. I've actually turned down the brightness from the maximum setting, as with all the LED lights, turned all them down as well because they were just too bright to start with. So absolutely, yeah, no reason to fault them for that at all. It does the job perfectly. I never mentioned on the onboard there are flag LEDs here, left and right of the wheel. Which you can see there, and those three, again, you can program them to do what you like. They can be spotters, they can be warning lights for things. I've just programmed them again as they be in the car for flag indicators. So yellow flags, they flash yellow; blue flags, blue; green, etc. Red if I get a warning. Sorry, not a warning, a penalty in iRacing. Yeah, I think that's it. So yeah. Not much else to say on it other than it's fantastic and I'm super happy with it, and I can't wait to get back out on track and race with it again. And if you want to see it in action, remember and tune into some of our live streams. So yeah, hopefully that's been useful for anyone who's thinking about the wheel, anyone who is interested in F1 wheels, or the Mercedes. The Mercedes set up on their dash. Every team has their own dashboard, obviously on display. This is the Mercedes one. You can see it reflecting in the camera there. It's a bit off-putting. Weird. See how shiny the display is, but when you're looking straight at it, it's with the lights on. There's no reflection or anything. But yeah. As I say, hopefully that's all useful for you guys and you enjoyed it. And if you want to see more, subscribe. If you like this video, leave a like. It does help the channel. Helps YouTube know that I'm not just producing guff nobody wants to watch. And yeah, any questions, stick it in the comments. I'm pleased to get back to you with any questions at all, either about the wheel or the dashboard, or any other general questions about the video. The Simrig, thank you very much once more, and I'll see you in probably our next live stream, whenever that'll be. Maybe driving with this baby. Anyway, take care folks and see you later. Bye for now.